Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Podcast. My name is Mike Williams. I'm joined today by Jake Kulkowski.
Hiya.
And Liam McKelvey.
Hello.
No Gareth Evans today, but we are going to be talking about a lot of video games, so that's good. That's good. It's not all bad news. Today we're going to be talking about weapons, and it's not going to be like some NRA special. It's not going to be like what makes a good gun. We're just talking about video game weapons, items, and gadgets and stuff like that they use in video games, and which ones are the best. But first, Jake, tell us what you've been playing this week.
Alright, so this big long Easter weekend, I completed Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, which if you remember from last week, I just started. I can now say I completed it twice over the weekend.
PlayStation Plus game, wasn't it?
That's right,
So it's still available now to download if you're on PS4.
Yeah, you got a couple of weeks left until it goes away, completely free on there. And it's, just to recap, it was a game where you're in space, saving the world from anti-love in the relationship.
Yeah, I love that. I love that about it. It doesn't even call it hate, it calls it anti-love.
Yeah. The revelation that your spaceship was called the relationship that we discovered, that was funny. So anyway, I really like it. You're just blasting through the constellations and saving your rabbits or frogs or cats.
Bunnies, actually.
Bunnies, yeah.
Rabbits.
A bunny rabbit.
Let's not get too scientific about this.
Yeah, that's true. So that's Loves and Dangerous Space-Time. It's
a really good co-op game, isn't it?
It's lovely, yeah. I like it. Do I like playing it with AI more than my real-life girlfriend? Yes. Because the AI does what it's told all the time, and it doesn't say, I'm going to go on the shields now and then go to a gun. It just does what it's told. So, the control freak inside me loved that.
Be more like AI, stupid girlfriend.
Yeah, why can't you be a robot?
Yeah, I played a little bit of it with my girlfriend as well. It's a really good kind of sofa co-op experience where it doesn't take too much commitment. You can just fire it up and get played. You know, kind of like, I always go, like Rocket League is kind of my go-to, what can I play for 20 minutes kind of game. So this is that same kind of formula where you just jump in and it's really easy to understand visually, you know what's going on. Even though it does look a bit chaotic at first, it's really a fun game to jump into. So like, how long did it take you to play through the whole thing?
First playthrough took me about 5 hours, but I was trying to get all the extra bits, like save all the extra little minion things. And
bunnies.
Well, they're bunnies for the first world, but spoiler alert, they then change to frogs,
to duckies,
and
froggies.
Ducks, and then of course you've got kitties.
Cute words for animals.
So you've got all this sort of Peppa Pig stuff going on, these colourful animals, and I tried to collect them all, and then the second time I blasted through it. It took me about 90 minutes the second time through. And that was on hard as well because I knew what I was doing, and then it's
I was so good at this game about bunnies and ducks and stuff. I played it on hard.
I'm sick.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm so sick.
Okay, Lovers in Dangerous Space-Time, cool. And what else have you been playing?
I've been playing Divinity Original Sin for the 5th time.
Oh, what's this about? Divinity Original
Sin? Tell
us about it.
You may or may not know that this is one of my favourite games ever. It's kind of in the vein of Baldur's Gate and more recently Pillars of Eternity. It's that sort of top-down tabletop RPG, very Dungeons and Dragons, how you've got a character sheet. If you're familiar with any of those games, you'll know what I'm talking about. You've got your strength, int, dex, all that sort of thing, and it's just a romp. It's a riot. It's a good bit of high-end fantasy fun, really. I'm playing it through this time with a different setup of characters than my previous times, and each time I play it, and I pick a different starting class. So, for example, this time I'm playing as 2 mages. One focuses on summoning the dead and summoning like spectral spiders and things, and the other focuses on moving the terrain, like geomancing and stuff like that. And that's completely different than the last time I played it, when I had one was a rogue and the other was a fighter. So I love the game because it's so versatile like that. And
I mean, that thing of starting with 2 characters is pretty interesting. It's obviously co-op kind of oriented a little bit, but you can play it on your own as 2 characters to begin with. Yeah,
it's a lot of management, especially because I'm playing on the PlayStation, so inventory management isn't just a mouse click. I've got to like scroll. There's a lot of scrolling through menus, a lot of hardcore inventory management, which can be quite off-putting. It
is for the refined RPG kind of enthusiast, isn't it? I'd say like you've got to be on board with reading a lot and kind of sorting out your inventory is a big part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you've not forgotten Gareth already, then you will remember that in the office he was saying he's been playing it recently. Now, what it is about the game that's so appealing to him, and I can remember him saying this, was the fact that it applies a lot of logic to this fantasy world.
It's brilliant for that.
Yeah, and it's just like, you dream something up, you can do it. So, for example, the first town you go to, there's a ship, it's on fire, and if you've got a wizard or a witch that can cast a rain spell, it'll put that out, and then the sailors will come and thank you, and you'll get rewarded. And it's just like that little bit of logic there that it really brings stuff forward. A lot of the time, you think, how am I going to solve this? There's a door I can't get past. Oh, why can't I just bash it in? You can.
You can bash it in,
Yeah.
You can pick stuff up and you can manipulate the world quite well, can't you? You can interact with a lot of stuff in it. Like that's one of the things I enjoyed most about it when I sort of played through it, and the way that you can think about what you need to do, and so many things in the game world are clickable. Like you can click on a lot of things to make things happen. On a very basic level, I found that really enjoyable. So what made you go back to it then? If you've already played through it loads, why did you want to go back to it?
I think it's just a complete versatility of it. It's like I don't know what it was in terms of, I don't know, because it's kind of fresh every time I play it. I'm discovering more things. I know it's so cliche to say, especially considering I've done it 4 times. But even now, I'm only in the first place, and I'm like, oh, I haven't done this quest before. And I'm trying to do it to completion. I've nearly got all the achievements or trophies, whatever. And I'm discovering new ways, and there's new approaches of dealing with things. So it's that mixture of, I wanted to play something that I was kind of familiar with, and yet would still offer me something new. So I thought a game like that's perfect for that sort of thing. And I don't just really, like how you feel sometimes on a Sunday, or in this case it's a Monday, and you've got 1 day left of free time. You don't want to take a risk playing a game that you've just got. What a first world problem. You know what I mean? But I didn't want to play.
You want to go back to what you know.
And I didn't want to play something so linear that it's like just following the motions. So I thought I'd give it another go, and again, not regretting it. Can't wait for the second one. Cannot wait. The fact that it's 4-player co-op and you can play it online means that I'm gonna, hopefully.
We'll get some sort of party thing going on that, definitely. I was a pretty big fan of Divinity Original Sin when I was playing through it. Although I did stop. I did stop playing through it after about 40 hours because it just absolutely broke me. And I don't know what it was, but I found I needed more endurance to get through some of the combat scenarios and stuff. And I'm not talking about endurance as like an RPG stat here. I just literally sat there and was like, it's just, I needed a lot of willpower to get through some of the encounters. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I played through like Wasteland 2, and I'm not opposed to this kind of CRPG type of thing, but I just stopped playing it. But I actually weirdly almost fired it up myself on the weekend, but then I was thinking about some other games that needed playing. But I wanted to go back to it as well before Divinity 2 comes out, Divinity Original Sin 2.
It's lovely and consistently challenging, which a lot of RPG, it starts off quite grindy, but you can over-level yourself quite easily on one of the earlier Final Fantasies, and then you can just steamroll the game, and you don't need to use any tact because you're just so overpowered. Divinity puts you in positions where a lot of it's terrain or element-based, and so it's a crawl towards the end because every battle you're like worrying, even though you're stronger and you've gathered all these new abilities, it really does push you all the way through to the very, very final battle, which is again even more intense than the rest of them. So it's just, I love that. I love how consistent it is. Okay,
cool. Divinity Original Sin. So Liam, what have you been playing?
So I booted up Bayonetta on the PC this weekend.
Nice. That only just came out on PC, didn't it? I made a video on it.
Like launched to very little fanfare, but it's doing well. It's got great reviews, selling well. But I decided I'd pick it up, show my support for Sega games on PC.
A good remaster done right
as
well.
Very good remaster.
You didn't pick Bulletstorm up, did you, Liam? No, none of us did.
No, I don't think anyone
did. What does that tell you?
But Bayonetta, it's the same old Bayonetta you know and love. It's pinnacle of the hack and slash genre, if you ask me. So there's not really much you can do better than Bayonetta does.
I've seen a few features like online and stuff about how, having replayed the remaster, all these journalists are like, you know what, this is still basically the best kind of action combat kind of game that you can get, like character action game, I suppose, that you can get. Because what is it about it that's so good though? Is it the speed, the fluidity? What is it about it that's so satisfying?
It's a combination of all those really. Combat is very fast, very fluid. The animations flow so smoothly together. Combos are easy to do, hard to master, and you can cancel out of a combo anytime to dodge, which a lot of character action games don't actually let you do.
Right,
So it's just the controls are really well done. Every boss fight is unique. Just it's a shining example of how to do combat in a game, if you ask me.
And polished even more so than the original, which seems to be considered one of the tightest in the genre anyway. And now they've improved on it even more.
It's the only issues the original release had was some performance issues on Xbox 360 and PS3, especially the PS3 version. The PS3 version was terrible. They've updated it so it runs at flawless like 60 FPS.
Yeah.
And that adds to the experience a lot more. It just makes everything more tight, more polished, fluid, you know, all that jazz.
Which is really important for a game like that, isn't it? To be fast and responsive.
Yeah,
and everything.
you need that badly in a game like this.
It sounds crazy what they've done. Like the fact that there's people trying to run it on 8K and whatever. It shows that it's just, you can't optimize a game any better than that. That is optimal. You know, there's nothing else that can be done in that instance. So that's really, really cool to see. What's the price on it? What was the price like on it?
So it's $20 in the US, but £15 over in the UK.
So that's pretty reasonable, isn't it?
For a 7-year-old game, it's a pretty reasonable price, especially for a brand new PC port.
Yeah.
And I would say if you're even slightly interested in it, just take the gamble, pick it up, because you'll have a good time with it.
So you recently played Nier Automata as well, didn't you? Like, what can you see some like similarities there in terms of how they handle and stuff?
Definitely, yeah. So Nier Automata and Bayonetta, both made by Platinum Games, same company. I'd say Nier Automata owes a lot to Bayonetta for the combat system.
Okay.
So in some ways, the dodge mechanic is almost identical in both games, but you can really tell they've got Platinum Games. They have like a really like DNA to their games, I guess. Like when you play a game, you know it's like one of their games, sort of thing. They've got that unique grasp on action games that you can just look at a game and go, oh yeah, that's a Platinum Games one.
Yeah, I see
it's
what you
really
mean.
Good.
Yeah, I think there's a few companies who've got that where, you know, their fingerprints will be all over a game once they've made it. But I suppose it's especially true in this case. Okay, Bayonetta, the PC re-release. So that came out only last week, didn't it? So
just last week it was.
All right, awesome. So I've been playing Fable Anniversary Edition because we're working on a video about Fable and Peter Molyneux. We've done some videos on Peter Molyneux recently. We were thinking, hang on a minute, why was this guy any good in the first place? And we were talking about Black and White and all of his old kind of PC titles and stuff. But the one that really stands out in my memory is Fable, and it's kind of similar for you, Jake, as well, I suppose. Fable is one of the kind of special games, and so I played through it again, and I beat it over the weekend, and I just really love it's so full of personality and comedy and charm, and it's so, I don't like saying it's really British, but I suppose some things hit a little bit better because it's British. You get all these accents. It's not full of American, you know, all full of like American sounding people, or even just that one kind of English Southeast England, London type accent that you get in most kind of video games. It's like, it's just such an excellent, I don't know, collage of like of British comedy, humour, storytelling. Like the names of places are just brilliant. And the one there's like in the Lost Chapters, there's like a bordello. So there's like this place full of prostitutes, and then you go in there and you speak to someone called Madam Minch. Right? Spelt ZCH or whatever, you know. So it's spelt differently than the Minch that we're thinking of. And so then the guy who owns the place is like a guy called like Mr. Grope or something like that. And it's just like they just call, oh, this is it's that Grope. Yeah, what a knobhead. That Grope's coming. Like, watch yourself. There's loads of comedy like that in it that I don't know. I just love it. The music in it is really. I don't know. It's quite ensnaring. Like, it's so bright, even when it's trying to give you these. Like dark themes and stuff, which aren't really that dark, but even when the game's being a bit more serious, the music is just unbelievably good to listen to. It's just it's just fantastic. So Peter Molyneux, we're gonna be doing a video on Fable pretty soon. Hopefully this week, maybe if not, that'll be next week. So that's why I've been playing Fable, and there's just so many things about it that I want to say that I can that I've realised now as well since playing it. It's probably like the 4th, 5th time I've played it through to the end. But now that I'm trying to look at it and assess it for what it is, there's so much good there that the fact that it was overhyped by Peter Molyneux has kind of torpedoed any like reputation it might have had. For example, one point about it is that it is insanely easy. It is ridiculously easy.
That's right. Yeah.
But that's not. You're not playing it like for a Dark Souls experience. You're not even playing it for like a normal video game experience. It's just quite fun to role play as like this boss level hero who can just destroy whatever. And the fun in the game, the challenge in the game, comes in the decisions that you make. And if do you want to slaughter the traders from the bandit, with the bandits, or do you want to protect the traders from the bandits? And you role play the game as you want all the way through it. You can just stand in a town square and fart and burp and do whatever you want. That is so fun. It's so silly and it's so bright and colourful, and there's a lot to say about Fable, so that's why we're doing a video on it. That's why I've been playing it, and I just really enjoy Fable. But you can hear more detailed thoughts, more articulate thoughts on that pretty soon on the channel. And you love Fable as well, don't you, Jake?
Absolutely, yeah. One of my top 10 ever.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's like one of the things in the Peter Molyneux video. I said that Fable 2 broke my heart, and people were saying, oh, it wasn't that bad, and I just want to say for the record, I didn't think it was bad at all.
Yeah.
It was just Fable 1, and he was saying it was going to be so much more.
Yeah.
And it was, Fable 1 was so innovative. I can remember when I was little, what I loved was the fact that you could start off with a little bit of money, and I can remember I could kill one of the people in the town and then buy their house, rent their house out, sleep on the beach for 3 days, get enough money to do it again, kill someone else, and I would own every house in every town in Fable, and I was like Mr. Monopoly, man. I'm really interested for us to do the Fable video, because not only is it a bit of a passion project, but also I want to see what internationally people's memories are looking back, because like you're saying, Ed, it is so full to the brim of just Britishness, the whole Cornish accents, and all these little jokes, and like some people listening to this podcast might even not know what we're referring to when we say minge, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So I just want to know how people remember that game, because it's just so British.
There's so much personality in it, and it does kind of remind me of Divinity in some ways, like you said, like the fact that you haven't got money, so you get a little bit of money, and you just entrepreneurially massacre the village, and you can get a lot of rent money from doing that. It's cool, like the way you can solve things the way you want to solve them. And like you mentioned with Original Sin, like the burning ship at the beginning of the game, you can rain stuff on it, and that's like the center. That's like the showpiece of like look at the possibilities in this game. You solve problems your own way. In Fable, to me it's always you start Fable as a little kid, and you're in the your little village. You come across this guy and a woman who are having an affair, right? So the guy says, "Don't tell anyone, I'll give you a gold coin." You go, "Great, no problem." You take his gold coin. You run down the road and tell his wife immediately. She goes, "Thanks for telling me, here's a gold coin." So you've made £2 there out of, so you've promised that you've taken the evil choice, which, the game does have this binary good and evil thing, so that's something we'll talk about in the Fable video as well, but it does have this binary choice where you've done the evil act by promising the guy that you won't tell his wife, and then you've done the good act by dobbing him into his wife. But then you can make twice as much money by doing both things, and it's just cool. It's just the fact that it's open to that kind of abuse, I suppose, is quite cool. So Fable and Fable Anniversary Edition, I suppose we'll have Fable Lost Chapters as well. Lost Chapters added a lot to Fable that is really worth talking about as well. A lot of little details that are really, really nice. So we'll talk about that in another video in future. So so this is normally where we talk about the main podcast, which this week we're actually drawing from a question that one of our patrons left on our Patreon feed. It's quite a long question, but I'll jump into it right away. Taurus Trio asks, "Okay, so I finally finished the awesome game that is Horizon Zero Dawn. I particularly liked the Tripcaster. It got me thinking about the memorable weapons. To this day, my favourite is still Steve. Steve was a slingshot from a PS2 game called Dark Cloud, and he slung insults and ammo at enemies in equal measure. Sometimes he'd even give some good advice. My question is, do you guys have a particular weapon or game object that is memorable?" Okay, so what's our kind of favourite weapon or game object or gadget, I suppose, that's memorable from any game? This is a really good question. It's something we just kind of started chatting about in the office, because just as well as any character or theme or setting or anything from any video game, weapons are also really important, because they're basically your main method of interacting with the game world, aren't they? Shooting stuff and chopping stuff and bashing stuff and whatnot. It's really important. So let's talk about the Tripcaster specifically first. So Jake, Liam, you both played Horizon Zero Dawn, didn't you? Yep. What did you think of the Tripcaster?
Personally, I didn't even use it that much.
Did you not?
No.
It's the best. It's the best weapon.
I struggled to even remember what it did. I remember you could use it. I remember you could use it to trip up certain machines, but
it was awesome because it used the machine's momentum and size and aggression against them. So it would take a little bit of forward planning. So you could use it reactively, which was also awesome. But the way you're kind of supposed to use it, I suppose, is you just set up a few of them, and then you just shoot one in the head or whatever, and then it charges towards you, goes through all the Tripcaster ropes, and then it gets hit with all these elemental effects that you've laid out for it, like fire damage, electricity damage, or whatever. But it's just awesome because these things are massive, and then you just use that against them. That's why I really liked it. But you could use it like reactively as well, so you could just be doing rolls and everything, and just casting this thing on the floor. So you just hit one point and hit another point, and then it would just create this trip line.
That's an important part of it, isn't it? You set the two places.
Easy.
They set the two posts, and it makes a trip. Not to be confused with the rope caster, which was the one that
also awesome.
That you tied them down with. That was the one.
Yeah, I actually did use that one.
That's the rope caster. The trip caster was funny because you could set it up and it could trigger traps that you could set. So you could hide like some fire traps in some grass and put a trip caster in between it, and then you could lure some enemies towards you, and then all of a sudden you could really use it to
Inferno time. It was you could get pretty creative with it. So it was really cool to use. But so in terms of what our favorite weapons, most memorable weapons and items to use, some games, I mean, like Saints Row, Dead Rising, Ratchet and Clank, they make it their business to have big crazy weapons that are like, whoa, look how wacky this bazooka that fires ducks that breathe fire, that kind of shit. So there's some games that really try hard to give you crazy weapons to use, which is cool. It's fine. Borderlands maybe is another one where you just have all this different infinite combos of guns and effects. But I think there are some just really pretty boring items, pretty boring guns, pretty standard things that really stand out because of how well the audio was, how well the feedback was when you used it, what happened to the bad guy or the game world when you used it. There are some ones that really stand out to me. So I'm gonna chuck a few out there first just to get the ball rolling, right? One of my favourite weapons is the Gjallarhorn from Destiny, which is a bazooka type thing that also had like a cluster of missiles that went around it, and it was so overpowered. They nerfed it a little bit, but there was a long time where a lot of people, like, you couldn't go on a raid unless you had a Gjallarhorn, and it was like, sorry mate, no Gjallarhorn, no entry. It's like, fuck, I want one of these. So it made it like this holy object, and then when you got it, it was so powerful and it was so satisfying to use. So that was one of my favorite weapons. There's a lot of really cool weapons in Destiny that I just can't remember the name of. There was like a shotgun called like Party Crasher or something like that was really fun to use just because it was so solid and feedback was so satisfying. Gears of War, the Lancer, a machine gun with a chainsaw on it. I mean, that needs no more explanation. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and this game was one of my favorite weapons, was the MP5 because of how I mean, even unmodded, like, I always remember I would be really good using whatever class it was that had the MP5, and I'd start the game for like my first multiplayer experience ever, and I'd be killing it with an MP5. I'd be really good, and then I'd unlock other guns and other attachments, and I'd use it, and I would get less good. So I always found myself going back to the MP5 after a while. So I really like that. And finally, the Colt Python revolver from Half-Life 1 and 2, which was like just this really loud, really powerful revolver that you could one-shot a lot of the enemies. It was so awesome to use. It was just like this hand cannon thing. It was amazing. So 4 guns there. I really am conscious of myself sounding like a lunatic whenever I talk about how much I enjoy guns, but only video game ones. So Jake, what any weapons that stand out for you?
Yeah, there's loads, man. It's really good. I mean, Steve from Dark Cloud is quite a funny one. I can remember that. You can upgrade it to Super Steve, and I can always remember I think one quote that he said was like, "You're not gooey or chewy," or something like that. He used to come up with little subtitles. I can remember Dark Cloud had some cool sounding weapons, just to be a bit more specific to the question.
Very cool game, Dark Cloud.
Seventh Heaven, I think, was another weapon on there that stood out to me. But speaking of Seventh, the Master Moon Blade from Final Fantasy VII is really iconic to me. I don't want to go for the Buster Sword, because what it is about the Master Moon Blade, and that's Sephiroth's weapon, by the way, is when you first play in that flashback when you're Cloud and Sephiroth, and there's this giant dragon, and you're in Sephiroth's party. The AI controls Sephiroth, and you see what that blade does. That carves that dragon up like something, and you're like, I want that. And later on in the game, you get it. So the Buster Sword, which you start off with, it's memorable and iconic, but you are like, it's dangled in front of your face at one point in the game, and then later on when you get that, it's a bit of an achievement, but then actually the weapon is quite shit when you've got it because you're over leveled. So
that's interesting.
Half-Life 2, the grav gun gets a mention, doesn't it? Because it's like the most awesome, cool idea for a weapon ever, and it powers up and you can move cars and stuff. But I always remember Ravenholm, when you go to Ravenholm and it's like that abandoned like mining town or whatever. And they've got all the buzzsaws, and you can pick
all
them
these
up.
Conveniently placed blades.
Very conveniently placed heavy buzzsaw blades. So that's one. Here's one that if you know, you're gonna go, oh yeah. But if you don't, it might not mean anything. But in the game Turok 2, the dinosaur hunter game, there was the cerebral bore. Now the plot is in the title there. It was like this round weird gun, and it shot an orb out of it, which then stuck to the skull of the enemy, drilled a hole in the skull of the enemy into its brain, cerebral bore, you get it? And then it exploded their fucking brain. So it was like the best, most badass weapon ever.
That's pretty heavy duty.
It is. Speaking of pretty heavy, there's actually a death metal band from Scotland named after that weapon. If you want heavy, there's that.
There you go. That's Jake's heavy metal fact for the day.
The grindcore, yeah. So there's two more that spring to mind.
Sorry, grindcore. Was
it's grindcore, actually. Yeah, don't make that
just see your tattoos on this guy. You don't upset.
Two more. Scorpion's hand thing from Mortal Kombat.
God, yeah, awesome. Yeah. How did I forget that?
In the film, it's a snake in it, but in the games, it's that spear thing. The whole get over here. Yeah. That's well iconic. And then obviously, I'm gonna have to say the Master Sword, isn't it? That's iconic as hell.
Yeah,
it goes through time with you, man. A sword that helps you go through time. Does it need any more explanation?
It's like some N-Dubs lyric. It goes through time with your man. All right, we'll leave it. We'll leave it there. The Master Sword and N-Dubs. Okay, Liam, what are your favourite weapons?
Off the top of my head, I'll start off with just the Keyblades from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Just because the standard one is unique in itself. I mean, it's a key that's a sword, which
pretty
is
iconic,
weird enough. But then all the different themed ones you can get, like there's a Nightmare Before Christmas one, an Aladdin one, all themed after the different worlds. Mm-hmm. And they stand out, they're so unique. And if you think Kingdom Hearts, you automatically picture that giant key.
Yeah.
No matter what you think about it. Second,
yeah, that's true.
Second up, I'd say the Gunblade from Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty iconic.
Another blade / something else combo.
Slash gun. Yeah, so it's an amalgamation of two of our favourites here.
Completely impractical,
gun and a blade.
In a game, it's great.
Yeah.
Next, I'd say the crossbow from Oddworld: Stranger's Wrath.
Oh yeah, that is a really obscure one, but it fired a lot of different stuff. Didn't it?
Yeah. In the fact that it's just your bog standard crossbow. But the ammunition it fires is live animals that you can use to capture outlaws and collect their bounties on them.
All of your guns, Liam, have reminded me of that scene in The Simpsons where Moe says, so with some simple stick and sellotape, you can turn one gun into 5 guns. And it's like a shotgun with like 4 weapons.
Shoot a weasel out of it.
Around it. Awesome.
What makes the Stranger's Wrath crossbow stand out so much is just because each bit of ammunition is a live animal, but they have a personality to them. So
you're firing personalities at your enemy.
Exactly. Like if you want to distract an enemy, you simply load in a chipmunk, which this is an actual thing.
No brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you launch the chipmunk wherever you want the enemy to be distracted, and it just starts chatting to them, saying, "Hey, over here, want to be friends?"
Okay, so Liam wins this conversation.
There's no way.
Easily, quite comfortably. I'm talking about Call of Duty MP5s, and you were there bursting out with a crossbow that fires personalities.
Chipmunk launcher.
I have to give a special shout out to the Golden Gun as well from GoldenEye 64. That's a classic in its own right.
Okay, cool. So what about things that aren't necessarily weapons that you can hold in your hand, like swords, guns, or anything? Because I've got one really obscure suggestion, but it is one of my favourite items in a game, I suppose, ever. Right, and it's incredibly obscure. Total Annihilation. You could build a giant cannon called the Big Bertha, and it took forever to build it. So Total Annihilation was this really old strategy game, right? So Big Bertha was like a nuke level weapon. So you could just build a nuke silo and fire nuclear missiles, but who wants to do that? So your Big Bertha is like this giant cannon, and it looks like a crane. It just looks like a crane, and it would basically fire any like a shell to any corner of the map. But it just took so much work to build, and when you finally had one, you're like, oh, we're in business now, boys. We're in business now. So you build 2 or 3 Big Berthas in a multiplayer game or something, and it's just it's just phenomenal to use. Just this really inaccurate but really heavy duty cannon that would just launch projectiles from one corner of a map to the other. Yeah. Best thing ever.
It's very topical, that, isn't it? Very real life.
What do you mean?
Just the whole mother of all bombs thing, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
I mean, Big Bertha, USA.
Well, I thought you were talking about because Dawn of War was coming out or something. I was like, what is he talking about? RTS?
I was about our possible impending doom.
The current political climate. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, cut that.
Okay, so Big Bertha, that's my big weapon pick. Has anyone got any others?
I know what yours is, Liam. Why don't you just go right ahead?
Most people probably expect me to say Metal Gear Rex from the first Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to say Metal Gear Ray from the second Metal Gear Solid, just because it's so badass.
A bit more agile.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a giant lizard almost, I guess.
Sounds like a giant robotic lizard as well.
And it swims through water. It can destroy like naval ships and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, its main weapon is just a water cannon. It's nothing like fancy. Literally just fires water so fast. It can shred through everything, and it's just badass.
No, that's a really good
Metal Gear Solid, Ray. You got any giant weapons that you're particularly fond of?
I was going to go down the weird, the object route, like posing a question and say the stealth camouflage in Metal Gear Solid 1, but no, I'm not. I'm going to go down the RTS route as well. And my favourite feeling of I've got a weapon of mass destruction that I'm going to unleash on the enemy team was on Age of Mythology, and you worshipped, it was like Age of Empires, right?
Yeah.
But obviously it had the twist that you could play the Greeks, the Egyptians, or the Norse, and you worshipped the gods, and whichever god you worshipped, you got that superpower. And I can't remember off the top of my head which god it was that you worshipped, but it meant that you could unleash a giant dragon called Nidhogg on the...
Sounds pretty Nordic, I suppose.
Yeah. But I can't remember inside, because inside the Norse clan, you could pick different gods like Loki or Freya and stuff like that. And so, like, you had, like, your superpower. One of them was, like, I can remember one of the powers was Barren Winter, which you put it on the enemy town, and it froze all their crops, their resources they couldn't farm, because it brought an eternal winter. And that was, I think, Odin's power. And then
vicious.
Yeah, and then wolves came and attacked and killed all of their workers. So that was that, but I love
very indirect form of terrorizing your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. So freeze our crops over and bring down the wolves, which is pretty metal.
Big Bertha still, you know.
But Big Bertha, but Nidhogg was a dragon and that, so you know, dragons.
Is it a cannon though? Is the question?
It didn't look like a crane though, so it's got that going for it.
Okay. So scaling it back down now to things that you can pick up and stuff. What about just like objects? So there is weapons, that's one, you know, they're really important in video games. It's just the way that, you know, you deal out damage, and the weapons cover such a broad like spectrum of things to use. But there's something, what I'm thinking specifically of is like the lasso in Red Dead Redemption, because you can do stuff with it that isn't, you know, you can tie people up, you can chuck them on the back of your horse, you can do things with it, you can drag them behind your horse and stuff like that, just with this piece of rope. So is there any other, like, any items that you can think of in game that are just little weird little bits to use that are really fun to use because of the way that the environment has been set up? So you talked about the gravity gun earlier. That's only that part of the reason that's so fun is because the environment has been set up for you to have fun with it, if you know what I mean. So can you guys think of any other example of something like that, of like just a fun object to use?
Straight to my mind, even more Metal Gear Solid now, I'd say the Fulton balloon system.
Oh my god, yeah, what an answer. Yeah.
The way you knock out enemy soldiers and then strap them to a giant weather balloon just to kidnap them and recruit them to your army it was just fun.
That actually changes the entire game. It's where you're like, it's like business decisions, like this guy's a pretty good translator.
Yeah.
Okay, you can come. So you've got to decide if you're going to shoot these guys or, you know, kidnap them, I suppose, and then have them inexplicably just
join
become
you for no
your
reason.
ally. Yeah. So that's an awesome.
That's my pick.
Yeah, Fulton Balloon, I love that.
That's really good. I can't whittle it down. There's two. The first one is a bit too similar to the gravity gun, but the portal gun's obviously really iconic. And the companion cube from Portal 1 is also pretty iconic. But I'm going to go with the radio from Silent Hill 1 because it was really useful and really good touch. Yeah. You know, you could have it equipped and it let you know when enemies were nearby. If you didn't have it on you or whatever, then you would get jumped basically by these like undead freaks. So yeah, I think the radio, and it was good because just having it made you feel a lot more secure and safe. But then whenever you heard the static, then you knew that there was an enemy nearby, and that to me is really iconic. That whole Silent Hill radio vibe. That's awesome. That's top of my head.
Okay, so but what I think it all kind of boils down to, whether it's a weapon or a kind of gadget that you use, what makes a good weapon in a video game or what makes a good gadget in a video game is three things really: the visuals, how it looks. Does it look cool when it leaves a mark on the world, or when it leaves, you know, when it hits an enemy or something? Does it look satisfying? Does it look cool? Can you blow shit up with it? And that's another thing. The feedback, the response. How does the world and the environment react to it? Like Destructibility made guns in like Battlefield Bad Company 2. The weapons in that felt amazing to use because they would punch holes in walls a lot of the time and stuff, and things would chip away from cover. Like, you know, you could have an assault rifle with a grenade launcher underneath it, which is a pretty standard weapon in COD, but in Battlefield, you can level buildings with it. You can create holes for you to jump through and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just the destructibility is such an important part of it. So the response that the world gives you to the weapon as well. And finally is the audio. It needs to sound like it needs to sound satisfying to use. There's some weapons that you can use, especially like the pistol in Doom.
Yeah.
Doom is an incredible game, right? They give you the shittest weapon of any FPS for a long time for the first like half an hour before you get a shotgun.
Yeah.
You get this like just pathetic little pistol, and half the reason that is so unpleasant to use is that it sounds like you're shooting paintballs.
Yeah.
It's like it just doesn't make an impression on you at all. So if it sounds like really satisfying, like if it's a sniper rifle, if it's got a really loud like snap or a crack kind of sound to it, that is what that kind of rifle kind of you expect it to sound like that. So when it doesn't, then you're like, oh, that's a bit shit, isn't it? So when it does, it really kind of satisfies it. They just need the right kind of audio feedback, so there's enough bass and stuff, and the right type of sound hits your ears. Otherwise, it's just such a huge important part of it. So that Doom pistol, it sounds and feels so shit to use compared to all the others because the audio in it, I feel, is just not not as impressive. So that's why I reckon the three things you need for a good weapon, good weapon experience in a video game. That was the first question. So thank you very much, Taurus Trio. We got a full discussion out of your question there. Everyone else, guys, if you want your questions answered on our channel, just leave a response to our Patreon page in response to this podcast. Just reply with your questions. We'll read them out the following week for you. So we got a couple more to get through this week. Morten Rene Alkvist asks, I bought a PS4 and Horizon early this week. The game is one of those rare games for me when I can just play hours upon hours and not realise that 6 hours have passed. The last game that did that for me was The Witcher 3. There were a few things that really grinds my gears in Horizon Zero Dawn. No sidestep dodge and not to be able to disable all tags for quests and points of interest. It just seems weird to have to dodge-based game without a sidestep dodge. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, so Horizon wasn't like a perfect game. There was, like you said, there are a few things in it. The dodge thing is pretty weird. Like it gives you like this, you can unlock like a different, a more nuanced rolling system where you can roll really far or roll short. But I guess like a sidestep would be really useful. It feels like an important omission, but I mean they just didn't include it for whatever reason. Maybe it didn't fit in the control scheme or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. As for the points of interest, I don't know what you guys thought about this. I thought Horizon had balanced it pretty well compared to Ubisoft games where I didn't feel like I was overburdened with stuff to do a lot of the time. Maybe because there was less activities to do. There were only 5 towers, for example, as opposed to like 20 odd or whatever you get in Far Cry. I don't know. I just felt like the map wasn't that big of a, I didn't feel oppressed by the map like I can do in some video games. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, the icons weren't that intrusive, but no. Yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying because it's like, why not just go an extra little bit to take off all of the points if you want to? I don't know why they didn't feature that. And as for the side dodge, yeah, I can see what you're saying as well. It's like a Neo or Dark Souls or Bloodborne. You wouldn't survive if you couldn't lock on and sidestep out the way. That's super important. And it's, when I think about it now, like Horizon would have well benefited from that. At the time, I didn't notice it. But now that you've said that, I'm thinking, wait, actually, that would be well useful. Because especially when they're shooting projectiles at you, if you could stay facing forward and move to the side, like one of those snap maws, those crocodiles or whatever, are shooting the bloody water at you or whatever, it'd be well better. So yeah, I completely agree. And I don't know why they've overlooked that. Like Mike says, it might have just been maybe they've not noticed it either, or it could have been. They
probably, a lot of these things, people are like, oh, why aren't they in the game? A lot of these things, I feel like they probably were at one point, or they probably at least questioned, should we put this in? And then they make a judgment call on how it works and whatever, and what you think about what the because this was a PlayStation exclusive. You think about the way this is mapped on the controller. What would they have to lose off the controller in order to put side steps in there? Whatever they say, it's like the square button or whatever. There's something that square button already does something, so they'd have to lose that in order to put the side step in. I think the rolling was fine in it. Like the dodging was pretty useful. I guess they didn't want you to be up close, like tangling with these things all the time. They wanted you to be like a hunter, I suppose. The whole game wants you to be a hunter, where you're predatory as opposed to getting in the thick of it. So maybe that's part of the thinking. But I probably would have appreciated it. I mean, Liam, you were talking about like how awesome the dodging and stuff was in Bayonetta. I don't know if it was it a big pain for you playing Horizon, like not having a dodge?
Dodging actually took me a while to get used to in Horizon, because at the same time I was playing Neo, and that game does have the sidestep dodge.
Very Dark Souls-esque, isn't it?
Yeah,
so of course
and I was just very used to letting the enemy get in incredibly close and then then sidestepping out of their attack. And when I couldn't do that in Horizon, it led to quite a fair few deaths, and I had to sort of reevaluate my playstyle a little bit. I think the game probably would have been better. Its combat would have been smoother if there was a sidestep.
More control is always better.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's a big loss to the game because, like you said, they want you to be the hunter, the stealth, like predatory sort of thing. But it would have been nice to have it, especially in some of the more intensive combat scenarios, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, cheers, Morton. I hope you enjoy the game. Anyway, thanks a lot for your question. Next is Gareth McLeavy. He asks, how do you feel about noobs, casual gamers, in online multiplayer? Are they an easy kill, or do they ruin your kill-death ratio? I don't put anyone in any kind of bracket in online multiplayer. They're all just, my team or the other team, I suppose, when I'm playing. I only get annoyed if someone's really persistently doing something that's really pissing me off. But the most multiplayer I kind of play is large-scale kind of stuff outside of strategy games. When I'm playing, Battlefield 1 or whatever, there's like 60-odd players on the server, so it's really hard to notice when one person's being a dick or one person's really shit. What I have found, though, is when everyone's a noob, when a game is new, I am better at that game than most people. I'm always like, I'll top the leaderboard quite regularly for like the first week. I'll leave it and I'm like, yeah, I'm good at that. Yeah. I'll go back to it a couple of weeks later and I'll just get destroyed and I'll just have to completely because everyone's been like leveling up and getting used to the game and learning the maps and everything, and I'm just coming in there just like haha suckers, and then I just get owned. So I think I appreciate noobs when everyone is a noob, because it's the most level playing field you'll ever get is the first day or so of release. I don't know about you guys. How much did you put much thought into noobs?
I don't think they ruin the experience at all, because like you said, we're all noobs at some point during a game's lifespan, and I think you shouldn't discredit newbies to the game, because if you scare them off of the game, it's the same reason new players don't get attracted to games like League of Legends or Dota all that much, because they get slated in the chat for being new players, and so it puts them off playing the games. I don't think they ruin the game. I think games should probably make a bit more of an effort to be inclusive of them.
Yeah, I think tutorials and stuff can only prepare you so much, and then you're like thrown to the wolves a little bit when you start some games, like you said, like MOBAs and stuff in particular. Whatever is the big online game of the moment as well, like Overwatch or something. I just have no interest in jumping into that because of I don't know. It's just something about Overwatch doesn't appeal to me anyway. But just I think if I just stepped into that now and try to play Overwatch the way I play Battlefield, I'd just get destroyed. I'd have to readjust and learn the game. But I'm not willing to put the time and effort into doing that while getting called the noob and stuff. it's just I don't know. It's a big part of online gaming, isn't it? It's just the community thing and every man for himself kind of attitude. I suppose that's where the casual gamer thing comes in, where you think it's a bad thing to have casuals and stuff. But I think it's really important to have all different types of people playing your game. Yeah. So it's important for the health of the game that you're playing to have new people coming in all the time.
Yeah, I think it's what Liam's saying rings true, like noob lives matter and stuff. I mean, to be honest, I play Battlefield 1, right? Quite a bit. I used to anyway. When it first came out, I was playing it all the time. Yeah. And the people that I found were the worst people to play. And I hope this doesn't sound like an attack on the gentleman that asked the question, because I'm sure you're a lovely man. Respect to you. But it was the people that were worried about their kill-death ratio that were the dicks, because it's like the game's objective-based, but there'd be people sitting at the back really conscious about their kill-death ratio. Yeah. And it was the noobs that were running and being the cannon fodder that were being a good assister. They were taking flags and they were doing the right job. What you're saying about how when you pick up a game and you're new, it is so right. When Battlefield was out in October, wasn't it? Christmas. That Christmas week was so satisfying, because there was all these kids that got it for Christmas and didn't know what they were doing, and you could just go in there and absolutely stomp all over them. Like, I think I played 3 games in a row where I'd died twice in 3 games, and I must have got about 80 kills. And I was playing the objective because of Christmas. So noobs are good for that, because it's good when you're not a noob, you can just pick them off. It's fun, easy kills. 2, you never know if they're going to be they're not playing to for any other reason than to play the game. They're not playing to get a good kill death, to appear really cool and all that. And it's just nice. And I think that, I can't remember which Call of Duty it was, but I think it might have been Modern Warfare 2 or Black Ops. They had a special matchmaking mode for people that were level 10 and under. Yeah. The training grounds.
Combat training.
Yeah, I think a lot more games should make an effort. Really let people dip their toe into online gaming in a way like that. Like maybe matchmake only with people at a certain level. I know a lot of games try and focus on that, but that would be a real good way of...
No, that's definitely true. I mean, some games, they just don't lend themselves well to being a newcomer, a long while after release, if you've missed the release window and you're coming at a multiplayer game 6 months down the line, a lot of games can be absolutely brutal. Like the Division, where you go in the dark zone or whatever, and you've never been there before. It's like it's changed a lot now, but it was like the Wild West for a long time, and it was people kill. It's a very hostile environment to be playing in. That is part of the appeal. That's why games like DayZ and whatever, and Battlegrounds or whatever's doing the rounds now, is a very hostile, oppressive kind of attitude that the game is trying to put on you, and that's part of the fun. But I mean, casual, the other part of your question is not just noobs, it's casual gamers. Some people do just like to play like a couple of hours a week, and then sometimes those players will go into places like the Dark Zone and Division and stuff, and they'll find themselves like completely like a fish out of water, like, oh my god, these guys are way too pretty serious. So I think that idea of having servers that are a bit more like for newcomers, or for maybe people who just haven't got the time to commit to learning the game properly, and also might be an idea.
Rather than punching downwards, like I was saying about how fun it is to kill these clearly 14-year-old kids that got these games. It's like at the end of the day, honour your opposition and make the matchmaking fair. Like StarCraft 2 matchmaking's brilliant. Like you're level 5, you get put against someone else that's level 5. And it'll look at your win loss and stuff like that. If they can figure out a way of doing that, specifically with first-person shooters, really, it'd be a lot more fun. And stop giving people that are good such easy opportunities, and stop giving people that are new such a hard time. It's all about the matchmaking, and that's mostly server-side on there.
You're right about StarCraft, though. I think they've kind of...
StarCraft,
it's a model, almost.
In my head, that's the pinnacle of matchmaking, to be honest.
That's a good point. And with games like StarCraft, though, it's so important, because the teams are... you haven't got, like, 30-odd teammates or whatever on your same team, like you would have in Battlefield. Where in Battlefield, kill death isn't as important because you can play the objectives. You should play the objectives and support your teammates.
Please do.
But in some games, RTS games, it's like 3 versus 3. So 1 weak link in a 3 versus 3 is massive. So I can definitely see in that perspective. Having played Dawn of War 3, the beta, a couple of weeks ago, it was so annoying where like you'd have 1 weak link in your team, and you've got like shared objectives in Dawn of War 3 as well, where you've got to defend shared points. It's not like so you've got to rely on your teammates a hell of a lot. So when one of them is an obvious weak link, it can be so annoying. But yeah, I think what you said there, Jake, about being about the matchmaking and pitting, laid back or new players with laid back and new players, and the people who do want to take it seriously and do really want to, look after the kill death and whatever, put them together in the same servers as well. That's definitely the way forward. Okay, so that's the Pretty Good Gaming podcast. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in next week on Wednesday as normal. I've been Mike Williams. I've been joined by Liam McKelvey and Jake Kulkowski. We'll see you next time.